Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're talking about 5 great games from 2002. 2002 was, in a sense, a turning point in the board game industry, and I'll talk about a little bit why, because of a couple of the games that came out this year. So these are in no particular order. We'll start with a game that people are still talking about now, and that's Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, a game that added some interesting things. It's kind of one of the forefathers of the Euro game movement, or the heavier ones, even though it's not particularly heavy, and it's very different. But the idea of someone taking an action and each other person taking that same action, but the person picking the action getting a bonus, works pretty well. And this game has just a lot of fans. It shot to #1 rankings. But for me, it's just a fun game to play. It has such an interesting tension. Yes, there are some. The game is not perfect because the players' decisions that there's such a tight player balance that one player who makes odd decisions can throw things off. But it's such a great game regardless. Next, we have Star Wars Epic Duels. Now, you may not have heard of this game. This game was in mass market stores in Toys R Us. May you rest in peace. This idea of picking, the Emperor and versus Han Solo, or having Darth Vader against fighting against the Leia and Luke. You could do whatever you wanted in this game, and this game has progressed. It's been redone now and unmatched from Restoration Games, and it's been the foundation of a lot of different games. At the time, though, it was neat to see a game from the mass market really making strides and doing cool things. Then we have Lord of the Rings, The Confrontation. It seems like a Reiner Knizia game's on every one of these lists I do during this time frame, and for good reason. Reiner Knizia is often known for his abstract nature in games, but Lord of the Rings, The Confrontation is essentially very thematic. It's Stratego with Lord of the Rings, but it does so very well. Both sides are very asymmetrical. One side is simply trying to get the good guys are trying to get Bilbo to Mount Doom with the ring, with his piece, and the other side's trying to stop that. And the bad guys are so much more powerful, but the good guys have better special abilities. It is a marvelously well-crafted game. Why play Stratego when you can play this one? Age of Steam put the name Martin Wallace on the map. Now, Martin Wallace had already made several other games was well known for, but Age of Steam is the game that people now probably most prominently, recognize him with, although he's made many, many games since. Age of Steam, a game that honestly never ever hit the big time, but people who loved heavy games really got into it and has a super dedicated fan base even now. The idea of picking up goods and delivering them is not particularly new. It's been done a lot of places, but Martin Wallace turned it into a fine-tuned engine that felt different than other games that are out there. And then finally, we have Wallenstein. Wallenstein is a big giant game with a cube tower involved, and in this game you are fighting over different areas on a map, and you're doing so by picking cards and controlling regions, and there's just so much going on in the game, and yet the game feels very full. And they remade it with Shogun later on with a Japanese theme, but the cube tower itself, throwing cubes in, having them come out, could have easily been done with dice. But that one aspect, which was pulled from another game, kind of brought this together, put Durkheim on the map, showed that Queen could make some really cool big games, and just a fantastic game from 2002. All right, as a bonus, my favorite video game from 2002, that was pretty easy, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. I had been a big fan of the last Elder Scrolls, Daggerfall, and I wanted to see, what a more focused, Elder Scrolls could do, and wow, Morrowind was amazing. Yes, it has some flaws. Yes, there's some things that they did better than the other ones. But for a lot of people, it's still one of their favorites because it has such a unique alien feel to it. There's no other game that really feels like Morrowind. It's just so interesting and fun. So I just really like this game. I like the neat nature and the weird backdrops that were in it. My favorite movie from 2002 is Spider-Man. The MCU, it's hard to imagine the MCU was just a kind of a glint in someone's eye way back then. But the Spider-Man brought movies with superheroes and made them cool. I really think this was the turning point, the first Spider-Man. I still really like Spider-Man. I remember seeing this in the theaters and just being wowed that finally a comic book movie had been done on the screen and didn't feel cheesy. I mean, I get Spider-Mans and Batmans and stuff, or Supermans and Batmans, but Spider-Man, one of my favorite characters, and I felt they did him right. Tobey Maguire felt really good. So anyway, that's my favorite movie, my favorite video game, and 5 great games from 2002. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel, and this has been the Dice Tower.